Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeanette. For starters, if you are coming here for the first time, welcome. And if you are coming back from my previous videos, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. I noticed last year people were talking about the Starz series The Chair, and how Shane Dawson was not only the competitor, but actually won the competition. And his film Not Cool was also shot and produced during the series. This made me think about the 2015 season of HBO's The Project Greenlight and how this season became such a controversial moment for not only the show but also for HBO itself. And so for this episode, I will be talking about the 4th season of the reality show. Before we get started, please like and subscribe for more content. In terms of Project Greenlight, it was a reality show created by MattDamon and BenAffleck. Since they become successful and won prestigious awards like the Oscars after the success of their first film, Good Will Hunting, they created Project Greenlight so people like them can write and direct a film they want to make while learning the process of filmmaking. It started in 2001 on HBO, with the 3rd season moving to Bravo in 2005. And after a 10-year hiatus, HBO brought the show back for a 4th season, but changed the original format. So instead of having a person win the chance to write and direct a film, this season was going to have the script created by the 1st season winner, Pete Jones, with the TheFarrellyBrothers as executive producers. They also brought in EffieBrown and Mark Jobert as the producers in charge of the physical production and principal photography of the film. Mark worked on season 2 of Project Greenlight and has worked with the Farrelly brothers in Stuck on You, while Effie is an expert in producing independent films with small budgets like Real Women Have Curves and Dear White People. So given the fact that season 4 premiered about 10 years after the previous season ended, it changed in terms of the competition. So for one, they used Facebook for people to apply for the competition, which might have been the social media platform's peak before people moved on to other social platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Once they narrowed down to 25 contestants, they gather all the producers, including HBO Films president Len Amato and Pearl Street Films president Jennifer Todd, to have a Skype interview with the contestants. They then gave these contestants a script the Farrelly brothers wrote to create, I think it was like a 10 to 5 minute short film. And once that happened, they brought 13 of those directors to Hollywood for an in-person interview. Now, these interviews were more focused on what the director thinks about Pete Jones's script, Not Pretty Woman, and their thoughts on like what they want to change, how would they bring the script back to life. So the script was labeled as a broad comedy where a guy is left at the altar and ends up marrying a black escort. And I'm not joking. This is what they wanted to produce in 2015. And not only that, it was also backed up by the Farrelly brothers. So, of course, there are several people that were pretty obvious that they weren't going to win the directing job. So there was this one guy that just started crying in front of everyone because he was like, oh my god, it's MattDamon and BenAffleck, and then he just started bawling into tears. So it was a bit awkward for that. There was another guy that had a problem with his computer when trying to bring up this PowerPoint that he wanted to show. There was also a woman who stopped the interview to tell the producers that she wanted to bring her filmmaker partner, who is now her ex, and wanted him to be part of the interview because apparently she turned in her application and the video that they worked together without his credit, but then somehow was like, oh, I want him to be part of this, so brought him in at the final interview. So despite all of that, there were 6 people that the show kind of focus on. So first was Chris Capel. He was a strong competitor for this competition. He, I would say, is very close to the broad comedy and the comedy that the producers are looking for. So he did a Saw parody for his application, and then he also did a good job with the short film that they asked him to make for the next competition. So again, very close to what the Farrelly Brothers films are. There was also a directing duo named Leo Kai and Kristen Brancaccio. To be quite honest, like when looking at their resume, I would see them more as action directors than comedy directors, but they still wanted to apply. And I think that they were in the top people that they were focused on because they were, in my opinion, the only duo or the only directors that had some form of diversity. So Leo is Vietnamese, while Kristen is a female director. And even in the interview, Leo stated that he doesn't know what it's like to be a woman and feels that Kristen would help him out on that part, and then vice versa for Kristen in terms of race. And this duo seemed to be Effie's like number one choice, mainly because they seem to be the only people who would handle the situation with Harmony, who is the black escort that actually gets slapped by her white pimp in the script. So Effie didn't want to make Harmony be depicted as a stereotype, which I totally agree. And again, it's 2015 at this time. However, MattDamon decided not only to mansplain to her, but also whitesplain that they are not here to find the most diverse director, and that they are trying to find a director who can bring the script to life and do a job well.
Hello, Editing Jeanette here. For some reason I forgot to mention this when I was recording the video, but the reason why the scene was so controversial was the fact that MattDamon specifically stated that if we want to focus on diversity, we should be focusing on hiring diverse actors rather than hiring directors, writers, producers who are diverse to work behind the scene. And that's kind of why this scene was so controversial. Okay, bye.
He also brings up the duo stated that the script didn't need changes, which I totally agree, that they have noted that there wasn't anything that they felt needed to be changed. But at the same time, if you're pitching for the first time in front of like a group of like top executives, it's like, yeah, you're going to be a yes man. And I'm pretty sure that when he pitched Good Will Hunting with BenAffleck to that one guy that probably shall not be named, I'm sure that both of them were yes men for him, and that they were trying to just get the job and were willing to do whatever changes that they needed to do or anything that would allow them to get the script to be produced. Also, Jennifer Todd chipped in saying that she even doesn't like Harmony and how she is portrayed. I don't know, it was kind of weird because she was like, oh yeah, I totally agree with you, Effie, that we should, have a diverse director, like, fix characters like Harmony, but at the same time still side with MattDamon in some way, which I think is like a huge sign that they should have fixed Harmony's character before moving the script forward and before like even starting the competition. I mean, if like you're having like a group of producers being like, oh yes, we understand that Harmony isn't like ideal and is probably a stereotype, but we're still going to produce the script. It's so frustrating, and it explains how it's frustrating to watch the slow progress of diversity in Hollywood, because you have executives that understand that there needs to be a change in the system, yet sign up for projects that involve stereotypical characters and whitewashing. Again, I could get more into this, but it's kind of like an entire video that needs to be made out of this, so I'm going to move on. Next we have Adriano Valentini. He was the director who created the Beanie Bros short film for his application, and he was also the only director out of everyone that had his friends help him out, either as actors, G&E, or camera people for him. But that was kind of it for him. They didn't really go further into that. There was another person named Marco Slavnik. But like Leo and Kristen, I felt that he was more of an action director than a comedy director. Again, that was kind of it. I think that they only showed like maybe 5 seconds of his short film, and that was kind of it. And then there was JasonMann. So at first, Jason seemed to be a director with gross out humor and was someone that probably would make the script work. However, when he did the interview with the producers, his personality kind of showed when he was arguing that he would change the script if he directed, but doesn't know how to make the movie good if changing the script wasn't the option. And this comment probably pissed off Peter Farrelly and his ego, given the fact that he created Dumb and Dumber and Me, Myself, and Irene. And here, this guy who doesn't have a lot of credit as a director, and here he is saying like, oh, well, I don't really like this script. Probably not good. And then this also caused most of the producers to rethink about him. And I believe MattDamon stated that Jason is a talented director but has difficulty collaborating, which is kind of funny because this edit is really foreshadowing what would happen later. So after the interviews and going over their decision, the producers decided to pick JasonMann. Now, the minute that the announcement was made and everyone was like, okay, like Jason won. Good night, folks. Jason immediately went to Ben and Matt off stage and tells them, not even ask, tells them that he wants to shoot the film on film and that he wants to fire Pete Jones as the screenwriter and hire Andy Bynon, who was the co-writer of Boys Don't Cry, which is a drama about a transgender man. So throughout the couple episodes of the season, it focused more on how Jason wanted to shoot on film and wanted to change the script. So in terms of the script, he wanted to fire Pete Jones and hire Andy Bynon, as I said. However, it never came up after the end of the first episode, and it went on to everybody asking Jason if he has an idea of what he wants to do. However, he keeps saying, no, I don't, which halts pre-production for the project. He then somehow persuades Pete Jones that they should adapt a short film Jason wrote called The Leisure Class. And it was about a man who is trying to marry into a wealthy upper class family only to have his wild brother arrive unexpectedly. I don't know if Pete said yes to the idea because he really liked the script or that he just wanted to get the production going, so it's unknown. When I was researching for this video, I actually found out that the short film was directed by someone else and that Jason only wrote the script. Yet the reality show somehow made it seem that Jason both directed and wrote the script, so who knows. After Lynn and HBO agreed to do the Leisure Class, they had Pete and Jason work on the script for 2 weeks, and after HBO gives the go on the script, then they jump into pre-production. Right off the bat, they were having difficulty trying to get Jason to negotiate with his choices. So for one, he wanted to shoot the film in a Connecticut mansion from the 18th century, which seemed specific for me. But since they can only shoot in LA due to budgetary reasons, the oldest mansion that they have is one from the 1920s. However, he doesn't accept it, and they even showed him to other mansions around LA and even in San Fernando area. He still doesn't accept it, and he even had Peter Farrelly come forward after Jason tells him about the location issue and how Peter brings up the idea that they should shoot the film in Georgia. They're saying that there's a lot of Connecticut houses and we can even get a tax rebate on shooting there. However, Effie states that they chose LA because it's cheaper to have the location and the production house in the same area. She even explained that even with the tax rebate, they would still be over budget in terms of travel expenses, finding people who are local to be there. So it's like a whole like extra steps that they don't really need to do. So it ended up having the production designer Cecil Gentry to take Jason to this mansion behind the location manager's back, who is Allison A. Taylor, only to have Jason say yes on it. Funny enough, this was the first mansion they visited. It wasn't the second or the 10th or just a mansion they never seen. This was the first mansion that they showed him. And for some reason he said yes. So I don't know if Jason didn't want to work with Allison because she's a woman, but worked with Cecil because he's a guy, or maybe the producers of Project Greenlight persuaded Mann to stand up for himself and fight against the limitations. I don't know. Another problem was casting. Jason wanted a A-list actor to play the dad. So at first, his first option was Kevin Kline. However, Kevin immediately declined. And I don't know if he read the script or just didn't want to do it. Next was John Malkovich. However, since Malkovich lives in France right at the time, Effie stated that it would be too expensive to fly him over, especially if Jason wants Tom Bell, who was the guy who played the wild brother in the short, because Tom actually lives in England and they already have like travel expenses to send him over to LA. So he also wanted to look at actors from outside of LA because apparently he felt that there weren't good actors in LA, but same thing with travel expenses. And he ended up having Bruce Davison, who played Senator Robert Kennedy in X-Men, to play the dad for the film. Jason also got Ed Weeks, who was at the time his highest A-lister, given the fact that Weeks was still working on the Mindy project. I think this was before it got switched to Hulu. However, there was this like weird situation where the casting director stated that Weeks had a conflict with his schedule, and she explained that Weeks is only available until a certain amount of time, and the Mindy project had full power to take him out of the leisure class production and start working on the Mindy project. But for some reason it solidified quickly, and again, like, it's something that they bring up but they never follow up. Jason continues, I would say throughout the first like few episodes, he continues to argue and pledge for him shooting on film. Now, Effie stated that shooting on film is a $300,000 budget, which is a tenth of his budget. And Effie tried to negotiate with Jason by taking him to this editing / colorist bay to show him that he can shoot on digital, yet color it in a way to make it look like it's been shot on film. Jason states that he can still see that it is digital. Also, Effie then explains, like in an interview, that Jason is directing a comedy where people will be more focused on the comedy of the film rather than focus on whether this film is shot on film or shot on digital, which I totally agree. I would say like shooting on film is more of like an art house or an indie film than it is a comedy. So then Jason goes behind Effie and Mark's back by meeting up with Ben and Peter to see if they can help him out with getting film. Matt is actually working on the Great Wall, so he basically had Ben to answer for both of them. Ben tells Jason that he will give his producer fee along with Matt's Effie to help Jason shoot on film. Even Ben stated in an interview with the producers of the reality show that all of his films that he directed were shot on film, like Argo, Gone Baby Gone, and I think The Town. However, in my opinion, I feel that Jason fails to understand that Ben is able to shoot on film because he has developed a reputation as a great director and has awards to prove it. So of course the executives are going to give him as much money and as much of a big budget for the film as he can. At the making of this Project Greenlight, Jason only has directed a few short films, so it's almost like he is still an unknown person to the world. Jason also talked to Peter, who brought up the same technique Effie showed Jason at the beginning of pre-production. When Peter brought it up, Effie stood her ground and told him that he is stepping out of line. However, in Peter's eyes, he felt that she was creating drama for no apparent reason and just decided to pull out from the production. After watching this like twice, I agree with Effie. I'm not sure if Jason brought up to Peter that Effie already talked to him about the alternative to shooting on film, so I'm not sure. However, this incident actually caused Effie to confront Jason and ask him if he wanted to shoot on film or have 2 extra days to shoot. And of course, Jason picks the film budget, and it's kind of funny because the show made it seem this was a dramatic situation and like a dramatic choice. In terms of principal photography, I would say for the next couple of episodes there wasn't a lot of conflict or drama. I would say there was only some, but they were kind of mild. There was a situation about night shoots. Since most of the film is set during the night, the production team needed signatures for all the residents surrounding the location if they are shooting after 9 p.m. And this is true in terms of shooting in specific areas of LA. Like if it is a public space, you should be fine. But if you are shooting in upper class areas like Beverly Hills and more residential places, you have to complete extra steps, and that includes signatures from the people living there. However, since Allison only had 2 weeks to get everything ready, she didn't have enough time to get the signatures, and I believe this could be that some residents may think it was too late to ask for permission. Even Allison, Mark, and Effie stated that if Jason accepted the first choice a month ago, they would probably have the signatures ready. And as a result, they had to change some of the outside events and outside scenes to be at dusk lighting. There was also a small scene between Allison and Jason where she is providing him options of like these like roads where they can shoot the car scene on. However, Jason made this comment that none of the roads look great, causing Allison to confront him about him delaying the production. After this, it kind of subsided. Another situation happened in terms of the car scene. So based on the script, there was going to be this car accident where the Wild brother, played by Tom Bell, is driving in a Porsche with the bride's sister. They go ahead of like the Ed Weeks' character and his fiance, and they swerve into the other lane, causing the driver to swerve out of the way and cause a rollover crash. However, the stunt coordinator that they hired stated that the car would have to be on a rig, which takes about a month to complete. So this basically scraps the rollover crash idea. They then tried to have the other car hit this parked car, which is kind of funny because the location that they're in, it's not a common residential area. So it's, I would say like it's like nearby a lake. So it's just awkwardly there, and they tried to make it stick to the parked car. The car went a different way, and because they only had enough budget to shoot it once, they basically had to accept what happened. There was a situation between the camera crew and the assistant director, who is Van Hayden, about how Van was being accused of forcing the camera crew on their slow pace, and how the camera crew asked for certain things to be addressed safety-wise. However, they were never meant. And it seemed the situation to happen when Len was coming in to visit the production set. And again, it was never addressed after that moment. And I felt that it could have been the producers of Project Greenlight trying to create drama, especially when one of the top executives come and visit a set. In terms of post-production, they do a rough cut with Craig Hayes. Jason shows the cut to Effie. Effie made a comment that Fiona, William's fiance, is edited in a way that makes her seem a victim of Will and her father, who is Edward, as well as perceive that she can't solve problems by herself and almost needs a guy to save her. Jason ignores her and thinks Effie is just making this up, but Mark encourages Jason to have a test audience watch it. And the funny part was you can see no one laughing at all, and a couple people actually falling asleep. The audience stated the same thing that Effie brought up. Mark encourages Jason that they need to do reshoots. Effie then tells Jason that she saved enough money to cover the reshoots. Instead of thanking Effie for thinking ahead, Jason criticized her for not letting him use that money for the car stunt. This causes Effie to quit and say that, okay, I'm only working until the day before reshoots. This is when Len steps in as an on-set producer with Mark, and while the reshoots are happening, Len notices that Jason is leaving out Fiona's important line to fix her character, but Jason didn't want to use the line and instead wanted to fix more of the little visual mistakes that he saw in the rough cut. And I think this is when Len steps in and is like, no, you have to focus on the line. After the reshoots happen, Jason, Craig, and Mark work with Len and they go scene by scene to fix the edits. It goes to a point where Craig was almost at a breaking point because it kept going back to the basement scene where Edward is hitting Leonard with a belt. In the scene, Jason wanted to cut it one way while Len wanted to cut it another way, and Jason was also at a breaking point. And it was kind of funny because watching this, you could see Mark letting this happen and just like smiling. So after what appears to be about 18 hours, they finally lock in the cut, and that is it. In terms of my personal experience, I transferred to LMU back in 2015. One of the professors encouraged us to attend events the film school hosts, and one of them was the Project Greenlight season premiere with an interview with JasonMann and Mark Joubert. So I went to the event along with a couple of the people that I transferred. The event was okay. It was more of a reunion for Jason and his former teacher, Gregory Rosen. In the interview, Jason talked more about his experience attending Columbia and their screenwriting directing MFA program. He even mentioned that this professors at Columbia told him the techniques he learned from LMU were wrong, which seemed like a stab to LMU and the film students like me. I mean, like, it wasn't like a big thing for me, but I guess for some people they were like, did we go to the wrong school? Once the event was over, one of the transfer people wanted to talk to Rosen and Mann because he was starting to be like acquaintances with Rosen. And when I listened to Jason, he acts similar to what was depicted in the first episode of the show. He was awkward. He was also really into talking about film, almost like the people that you would see in line for an event at the New Beverly Center, like very nonstop talking about film and then shooting on film. And he only talked to the guys of the group, and I think there were 2 other ladies beside me that were in the circle, just stood there kind of just listening to them. So based on observing him, I feel that Jason seems to be someone who is awkward when talking to people, and thus causing this whole idea that he has difficulty talking to people, especially when asking people for certain things. He also doesn't talk to women as much as men. I think it could be coming from his shyness, and it can explain why he would always go to Matt's and Ben and Peter for certain things instead of just going straight to Effie. He does have a passion for filmmaking. However, I feel that he fails to understand that he needs to accept limitations at the beginning of his career before asking for special items like film, causing him to again be labeled as someone who is difficult to work with. In the words of EffieBrown, I feel that Jason is a recent graduate from film school who only completed a couple of short films. Now, in terms of the show itself, I feel the producers of the reality show were trying to get as much drama as they can, but there were moments that seemed the drama was forced. I would say that the conversation between Effie and Matt were not fake, and I honestly felt that when it happened, the producers of the show almost seemed to scramble to find more incidents like this one. I feel like that the conversation between Effie and Matt was like their best like real incident and real like drama, and then they're like, oh crap, we don't have any more drama similar to that, so we got to manipulate Jason to act this way, or like tell the camera crew to bring up this situation. Also, after watching Bachelor Fantic's channel and the show Unreal, I understand that most of the drama could be staged or edited in a way to create drama. The producers could also tell Jason to act a certain way, causing more drama with the production of the film. We don't really know what happened, and the only people who worked on the set actually knows.
Hi, Editing Jeanette again. I forgot to mention that the show was edited in a way to make EffieBrown be the villain of the show. They even went so far to name one of the episodes Hot Ghetto Mess as a callback to Effie fighting for diversity. HBO did change the episode to The Pivots, but after it originally aired. And this turned out to be successful, because the transfer guy who loved JasonMann and was becoming acquaintances with his former professor stated that Effie was the bad person of the show and should not be trusted. So yeah, I still feel bad for Effie and the issues that she had to deal with. Okay, bye.
So that would be it for this video. I will make another video that focuses on the leisure class itself. Be sure to keep a lookout on it. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I'll have my works cited down below, and thank you and goodbye.